All right, so today we have a couple of pretty significant developments as it pertains to the legalization, regulation of THC, cannabis, marijuana. And this specifically pertains to people in Texas. Texas has been very busy over the last couple of weeks. I've made a video on how they were potentially thinking about banning all consumable THC products. We have an update on that. We also have an update on their medical marijuana program. So I'm going to go over both of those today. So again, this will be particularly for people that live in Texas, but really anywhere you live in the country. If you're just interested in how states are taking on the challenges of trying to regulate or legalize, again, THC, cannabis, marijuana, this may be interesting to you. First, as always, if you are concerned with an upcoming drug test, I will leave links in the description box below of all the ways that we help people be best prepared to pass an upcoming drug test for THC, specifically home drug testing, and our free masterclass where we teach you all about the drug testing process, again, especially as it pertains to THC. Check the links in the description for that. And as always, a special shout out to all of the members of this channel. These members really help keep this channel going. All right, so on to the two updates, and we'll start with this one, and I will put the links to these articles in the description box below if you want to read the full articles. I've highlighted what I think are the important parts. Texas becomes the 40th state to legalize medical cannabis. And again, this was just from June 21st, 2025. This was signed into law. Now, Texas did have a very, very limited medical cannabis program. Again, it was extraordinarily limited. It's difficult to even call it a medical marijuana program. It was limited in the amount that a potential patient could use and very limited on the conditions as well. So let's scroll down, and again, I will just go through the highlights here. The full article, again, will be linked. The final version of this new law includes several improvements to the old law, which was the Texas Compassionate Use Program, the TCUP. Previously, the TCUP was, again, an extremely limited, restrictive, and low THC medical cannabis program that didn't meet the marijuana policy project's standard to be considered a medical cannabis state. So the marijuana policy project didn't even consider Texas to have a medical marijuana program because of how limited it was. So we'll go down here a little bit more. The improvements to the TCUP include adding chronic pain, Crohn's disease, traumatic brain injury as qualifying conditions. So they've broadened the conditions that you can qualify for medical marijuana and adding methods of delivery to include lotions, patches, suppositories, pulmonary inhalation with approved nebulizers, inhalers, and vaporizers when directed by a doctor. Further, the bill replaces the current limit of 1% THC by weight with up to 10 milligrams per dose and a package not to exceed 1 gram of THC. The bill also requires the Department of Public Safety to issue 12 more licenses for dispensing organizations for a total of 15. So they're upping the number of dispensaries as well, so giving people more access and more options. Dispensing organizations must be operational within 24 months after the license has been issued. So they're trying to get this happening, as quickly as possible. Again, 24 months sounds like a long time, but to get everything moving, it does take some time. So basically what they're saying is that it was very limited in the amount that you could use, the dosage, which, to be honest, probably wasn't all that effective. So they upped the dosage and they broadened the amount of conditions that could qualify, and they are opening up more dispensaries, allowing for people to have more options and more availability, basically, to be able to participate in this process. All right, so that was a big change for Texas. Texas now has a medical marijuana program, just got signed into law. The other, and the one that was getting a lot more press, was the potential ban of all consumable THC products. THC products that you could buy kind of over the counter under the Farm Bill. And again, I made a video on this and all the laws and the particulars of the Farm Bill and everything previously to this video, but they were potentially going to ban all THC in all products that you could buy, like at convenience stores and things like that. So things like gummies, drinks that have a little bit of THC in it, those types of products were potentially going to be banned. It passed the House, it passed the Senate, and it was just waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting on the governor's desk to either sign or veto. And here is the update. The governor, Greg Abbott, vetoes the THC ban. So he vetoed the law, or the potential law, that passed the House and the Senate. So he went against the House and the Senate and he vetoed the law, and he called for regulation instead. And this, in my opinion, and I will discuss why here in just a second, is a pretty sensible solution. Again, this is just my opinion, but I've made multiple videos on this subject in the past, and I will explain my opinions here going forward. Again, full link to this article in the description box below. I will go over the highlighted parts, the things that I felt were most important. And this is a quote from the governor. Here, right here in this first little part, Texas must enact a regulatory framework that protects public safety, aligns with federal law, and has fully funded enforcement structure and can take effect without delay. So he is saying that it shouldn't be banned, that there should be more regulation. So what the theme of these two different laws, or the veto of this law and the fact that they do now have a medical marijuana law in place, is basically more about control. They're trying to control or regulate THC cannabis marijuana more strictly. And that's what he is saying. He's saying that there should be a regulatory framework and not just an all-out ban. So in a statement explaining his veto, Abbott argued that the law would not have survived valid constitutional challenges, and that the bill's total ban puts federal and state law on a collision course, noting that the, again, 2018 Farm Bill legalized hemp products. So he's saying that basically any legal challenge would probably result in the law being ineffective and the ban not being able to go in effect anyway. So there's no real point of signing this into law, when most likely any lawsuit brought against it would bring the law down anyway, because it goes against the 2018 Farm Bill that legalized these products. Another quote down here: the current market, this is again by the governor, the current market is dangerously underregulated and children are paying the price. Now, the two major concerns that they had when passing this law, again through the House and through the Senate, were, number one, that these products were potentially marketed or could be obtained by children. Now, they cannot be purchased at a store by children. You do have to be of age to be able to purchase these products, but they were showing the packages, and they were showing the very colorful packaging, and they were gummies, and they look like gummy worms, and potentially they were very close to the gummy worms on the shelves, and that's what they were arguing. So that was one major one of the major reasons, of the two major reasons, that they were trying to get this law through. And the other one was the regulation. There was very, very loose regulation on these types of products. Sometimes there is the correct amount of THC in the products. Sometimes it's way over the limit. I have, again, done multiple videos on this. This has been a problem with these type of products. These products that are supposed to be under that 0.3% THC, sometimes they go way over it. They're very underregulated. So the regulation is what they are trying to fix. Now, and again, let's think about it. If we look at just an example like cigarettes, years ago, decades ago at this point, Camel used to use that Camel mascot, that mascot that was a cartoon, Joe Camel. So Joe Camel, and legally you cannot use Joe Camel. You cannot use a cartoon to promote cigarettes anymore, because the thought process being cartoons appeal to kids. Even though kids can't buy the product outright, it will make them tend to want to seek out that product, maybe by illegal means. So his thought process is kind of the same thing, that these products need to be some of the marketing needs to be regulated so that it's not directed towards children, but also regulation needs to happen so that we make sure that the 0.3%, which the law is intended for, 0.3% of THC in these products, is actually accurate. So again, the current market is dangerously underregulated and children are paying the price. If Senate Bill 3 is swiftly joined by the court, our children will be no safer than if the law was passed. So if legal action was taken and the bill was done away with by the courts, there would be the children would be no safer anyway, and the problems would only grow. So I think that's all I highlighted from this article. Yep, that's all I highlighted. So basically, two things: a medical marijuana program expansion in Texas, and the governor vetoes the potential ban on all consumable products and is pushing towards more regulation of these products, which again, in my opinion, is a very good thing. We do have a regulation problem keeping them within that 0.3% THC. There's been multiple independent studies that have shown that. And again, it makes complete sense if we just, again, use cigarettes and other products like alcohol and things like that as examples, and how you can't market towards kids or use marketing that might be appealing towards kids. It kind of makes sense. So I think a pretty sensible decision here by the government. We'll see what the pros and cons or the backlash potentially is. All right, as always, I will keep you updated on any new standards. Stay subscribed here, and please check out the description box below. Again, if you have an upcoming drug test and you are concerned, all of the ways that we help people pass THC drug tests. Until next time, everybody, stay safe.